Good afternoon. Happy Easter, everybody. We'll call this public hearing to order on March 30th, 2024 at 12:31 p.m. to review the annual town meeting warrant for fiscal year 2024-25. So, do we really need to go line by line, or can we go article by article? We're hoping to be able to take suggestions from folks and be able to get back to them rather than, we'll debate as necessary, but hopefully we can, get through this since there's been a lot of work already and it looks really good. So if I try to do article by article, is that gonna work? All right. So Article 1, any questions on that?
Who are we on to elect? Who's running that? I'm supposed to be on, right?
I think we elect one, but it's like, since it's,
We do, but you choose one and then we elect that person.
yeah.
It's everybody in the room at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Last couple times, Judy, it's been Michelle Casey. Yeah.
Didn't realize it.
Article 2, select a selectman for 3-year term. Papers are out for that, right?
Yep, those aren't due till August 12th.
August 12th.
Ah, I'm tired. April 12th. April 12th. You don't have that much time. Yeah.
Article 3. General government budget, to raise $513,000 and then $513,990. I say that correctly? Any questions on that? Nothing online, all right.
There's nobody else on right now.
Article 4, public safety budgets.
I understand we're now going into the business of transportation, public safety,
The
rescue.
for transfers,
Yeah,
we're trying to set aside funds to be able to do some transfers and gain some additional revenue for the town. That's budgeted and planned on.
and how do you expect, I suppose you, okay, last year we did not get the extra money.
Correct.
Correct. Because if a machine goes down, which happens, and more often than we would like.
Yeah, that wouldn't be it.
I know Chief Richardson set up the system, but the whole state is having difficulty with rescue. And have we really looked into align with say Pace or with Turner or others? I mean, of really consolidating, because we spend an awful lot, it seems, on rescue for not much. I don't know if it's not much good reason, but I don't know where the people are coming from.
Right.
So it's we could have. Are we talking to other people, other town, other?
I'm saying that's been brought up. I mean, if we wanted to make that an agenda item somewhere in the future, we could look at it. But from my experience, there aren't a lot of ambulance services out there looking for more business right now because they're having trouble doing what they can. So, but it's certainly something we can explore in the future. I think we get it on the agenda, came to put it on at some point, probably in between things.
I just wanted to mention one thing. I know you're only raising 1,000 or something now for the
10,000 for transfers was the.
No, about 1,000 for the maintenance of the stretchers.
Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
we had some money in for the.
Okay, I just wanted to make her point. Maybe you remember, but I believe it was our 2019 town meeting. We were asked if we would raise 57,000 for 2 of those stretchers. It was voted down by the town, but then the head of the rescue took ARPA money to buy them, and now we have them. So I don't know if you realize what it's, what the town's feeling was at the time.
Yeah,
He didn't need to get their approval.
the ARPA money was spent, through the select board at the time, as I recall.
Mhm.
And really, I mean, that's, is pretty standard equipment these days.
Mm.
The trade-off being that, and it's probably much more now, but the statistic used to be one back injury equals $90,000. It's probably much worse now. So,
Yeah, that injury of an EMT person.
yes,
Thank you.
yes. Any other questions on Article 3? Yes, Ed?
I have a general overall question about whether. About the layout of the warrant articles themselves. Should I wait until you go through all the warrant articles or? Should I bring up a concern now?
How do we want to handle that? I mean, I think you deal with it, I think. I'm okay with that. You are.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah,
I don't mind waiting.
yeah,
I'm here. The warrant articles were not written this way last year. They are now written. I forget, it's like a heading and then the divisions, and I want to know if the board had. I vaguely remember some conversation about that in the board meetings, but what? How did the board come to the decision to put 4 or 5 departments under one heading? And was that voted on by the board or not? Or is that strictly, what is that? How did that happen?
well, we did, the town manager obviously prepared the budget and warrant articles for us, and we looked at it. There were some complaints out there that we had far too many articles, in the past. I believe there were 45 or something like that. So we looked to try to consolidate it into similar grouping. But I mean, during the work, sessions we had on this, we kind of came up with this format.
Okay,
Does that help?
that does help my memory,
Yeah,
number one. Number two, then my question becomes, is it true? I had, let's say just the very first one, Article 3,
mhm.
it's under general government, and it includes administration, insurance, assessing, and municipal center. Is it true that if the municipal center budget of 60,000 went over 60,000 to say 70,000, that you could move 10,000 from administration to the municipal center because it's still under one head? Good point.
I'm not certain on that, would we?
Yes, Ken.
Yeah,
Town's voting on 513,000 for general government. General government's the department, administration, insurance, assessing, and municipal center are divisions of general government.
right, so it'd be all covered under that single line, yeah.
That's not the intention.
No, obviously, we wanna spend what we're budgeting and not shell game it at all.
I'm just asking simple questions, or what I consider to be simple questions, so then my next question on the same thing is, should there be would you call it an overdraft? If the municipal center needed $10,000 more? Or would you not? Because when I read this budget, I'm expecting the same way you are, and you just said it, so I'm not
Right.
in any way saying, I'm just trying to understand the mechanical process of what we're actually voting on. Because if you don't call it an overdraft, then what would it be? In other words, I, as a voter, am voting on one item, knowing that there's four included in the one. So now have a limited choice. And B, if there's and again, I don't know if you're gonna call it an overdraft. No one would know at the end of the year. You know, how does the concerned citizen follow the accounting?
Yes.
When I look at the budgeting process. And I know that municipal budgeting is far more complex than the budgeting we do as individuals. But if I look at the budget I'm going to have for myself, I have a budget for my home, I have a budget for vehicles, I have a budget for medical, I kind of budget out for the year. But within those, I do the best I can to anticipate what costs will be. But if one cost that I anticipated goes up significantly, then there has to be a discussion. If I plan on doing laundry all year, and then the washing things break, or the cost of laundry detergent grows up significantly, we still plan to do laundry all year. So now we have to look at, okay, we're going to spend a little bit more doing laundry, so maybe we're going to spend a little bit less somewhere else. But it's still all within the budget for the household. And in your question, as far as how would anybody know? Anybody can come and look at how we spend money. Anybody can come look down to the penny. And I know that this administration, this board is committed to transparency from beginning to end, from the beginning of the day, that everything be open. So as this budget was put together, I know that each department head in their own budget broke it down to, this is what we're going to spend on office supplies, and this is what we need for cleaning supplies, and this is what we need for screwdrivers, and this, they did all of that and then put it together. And at some level, I think we need to trust our people, knowing that if you want to know exactly what tools that the let's say the fire department is planning to buy, you could certainly go have that conversation, or anybody could go and ask for those receipts. But at some level, we need to trust the fire department to come up with a fire department budget. So I hope, so is it okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
My question has more to do with process and procedure than it has anything to do with us. I clearly hear you and I understand it's not a matter of trust. It's more a matter of taking either the will of the voters or and I'm going to use this word, I don't know if it's accurate or not, the power of the voter away by combining. Because we cannot individually choose our priority versus the board's. If the town's priorities are different, I'm not saying they are, but it takes that mechanism away. Has nothing to do with trust or inappropriateness in any way. I think she wants to say something, then
No, it was in reference to what she was saying, like those structures. It was a separate item, and people said no. Okay, they voted on the rest of them.
so that mechanism has been removed by formatting these warrant articles this way. Another part of the procedure is when you get a quarterly report, will it be just general government quarterly report, or will it be broken down? It's a small question. I think the biggest one is the amount of will or power, I don't know the right word. So, go ahead. Sorry.
As I understand it, there is nothing in this budget that is new.
I understand.
So
too.
what we're asking the community to do is to help us understand what the community wants. And I haven't heard from anyone that they want to do away with any. This budget allows us to continue operating as we do. I don't believe that this has any new equipment purchases, any.
I think you're
So-
misunderstanding. Because I'm not talking about purchases, I'm not talking about trust, I'm not talking about huge add-ons. I'm talking about the fundamental mechanism of voicing the will of the people. Period. Not any of those other elements. So if at open town meeting, for example, versus referendum, I know there's a difference. People could stand up. And there's been people that have. Some people in town aren't happy with referendum voting, but we had that as a warrant article, so that the majority of the people, I don't know if either, again, the best words. And it was voted that they wanted to continue with referendum voting. That's what I'm kind of talking about here, is the will of the people. And I know that you're doing the very best you can and have. And I would have talked about this sooner, but some of those other previous meetings were long and detailed and went way over time. But that's why I'm here today. I know there are other people that couldn't be here today that hopefully will show up Tuesday, but. And I know that this isn't a debate, I'm not trying to debate it, but I'm saying, I'm asking the questions because I don't know how that decision was formally made. There wasn't a vote by the board, for example. There was only a vote on the amounts, not the way the warrant articles were written.
So,
Okay.
no, I hear what you're saying.
Yep,
I think that the board, if the board feels that this is something to be discussed, that the board will do that.
yep,
The will of the voter, what the community wants, that's what this process is about. And if there is any part of a warrant article that people say, nope, I'm not okay with that, by all means, say no. And then we can all come back as a community, as a board, and have discussion and look at why did the town vote down an article.
and I remember you clearly, you meaning not you personally, you the board discussing that because, and I think it was even Cameron that said. The second, if one of these warrant articles fails. Then we would have to have a special town meeting. And in that special town meeting, you would then have 4 more articles, you would somehow break it out. But again, I think my point. And then if it was voted no again, there could be a 3rd one. There could be a 4th one. There could be a 5th one. At what point does it stop with the will of the people saying no? Without us having to keep coming back to say no. Do you see what I'm saying? And when it's all combined into one, I think the risk of having a warrant article fail is higher because we don't have the choice than it is if it was broken down. And I clearly heard, like, for example, Heather, I clearly heard her say, I get my absentee ballot and I have it for 45 days. I don't have to stand in the booth. I've heard too many warrant articles, people don't want to stand in the booth. There's never been an official survey, and we know that the majority of what we hear is usually a complaint, not a compliment. So do I have to go round up all the compliments, you know, to prove that there's more people that would rather stand in the booth and get an individual chance for their own decision compared to the other way? And I don't think that that's, I don't want to say that I haven't.
It's a chance you take with any, anything you're gonna vote on, right? It could get voted down.
Well, I remember, Bob, I think I told you, Bob, you know, there was a year that the school board, for example. Right?
Yeah.
Yep, we all showed up, we all said no. School went, did their thing, put another ballot up, we said no again. We had to come back the third time.
Yeah.
And I think it's still, Buckfield still said no, but we were outvoted by the other town. At what point, because we won't be outvoted by anybody but ourselves. At what point is what I'm asking. And so that's my,
Okay, do you have something to add, Dean?
One, this is just a draft.
Yeah.
And this is why you're having these public hearings.
Yes.
You vote on this on Tuesday. Two, nothing's being changed with the way that the town does their accounting, and you will still be able to see by department what everybody spends.
yeah, I'm not talking about individual departments, I'm talking about the formal mechanism of taking the will and the power away from the people and putting 4 blocks into one. That's all I'm saying, I'm sorry.
And I don't believe we're doing that at all. I understand what you're saying. But you're still gonna be allowed to vote on the budget. And, we can, if it doesn't pass, then we can work it out after the fact, sure.
The one thing I will finish with this is that I know when I come here and speak that you all listen. And I know that when I come here and speak, if we disagree, that that's all it is, a disagreement. We agree to disagree and still have respect for one another, but I could not come here today and say this piece. Thank you for this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Um,
Yes, Judy.
Going back on that rescue, I hadn't read the final rescue amount, and it was in the 400,000. When I was on the budget committee, it was still in the 300,000. It's risen like from early to 20,000, from about 40,000 to 400,000, which is sort of phenomenal because our town hasn't really grown. Now, what used to happen, when there was additional budget from transporting people, we always had votes or chips who would say, I'd like it to go to a new ambulance or a certain reserve. And I always used to say, why don't we use it to pay off the fire rescue building, on which we have this, still have another, 10 years to go. Oh no, we need the equipment. But in here, I do see that you say that any money raised is going to offset the taxes for which year? For that year or the next year?
What are you looking at? What are?
Oh, I went ahead, I was comparing the rescue and what they, and where they have general income.
Appropriate.
What article, Judy?
Oh dear, let's see. General government revenue shelters. Public safety revenue, 269,000.
What's the?
Oh, winter number, Article 12. Thank you. I'm just, there's a call on the telephone.
All right, we'll make a note on Article 12. We're on Article.
I know that, but I want to be sure that,
Oh, I see, because it correlates back.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, okay, well, you see what I can see.
so approve local revenues reduces the amount to be taxed. Is that the,
Yeah, because what concerns me is that if we appropriate this in the beginning, we're just going to raise the taxes. And I think we really are at a point where we've got to try to keep them level, if not going down. They went down slightly this last year, very slightly. I know a lot of people in town who are just so upset with the now with that taxes on their homes. And, you know, some people can pay them. There are a lot of people who can. And anyway, it's,
Yeah, same.
The one piece to that, as far as taxes staying,
you know,
basically where they are. I know that this board, this administration worked very hard, and that this budget, as it stands right now, and this is a draft that we are all working on. We really want the community to give their input as we continue to put together something to put to the voters. But if you take the amount of money that this budget says we need to continue to operate, and then you take the revenue and you subtract, so you have the difference that the municipal budget does not ask for more than last year. So the town is not looking to raise any more money for the municipal budget than last year. We don't have control over what the school will do. But this board, we hear you and we hear other people loud and clear that we need to do everything we can.
my concern, I understand the role of rescue. For instance, I don't know the whole thing. I just learned yesterday morning that if somebody falls and you call rescue, they can come and pick the person up and you can sign a waiver. They won't automatically take them off in the ambulance. That didn't used to happen. You see, I know the experiences of my neighbor, insistence that the person be taken to the hospital. It wasn't necessary. So there's information, I think, about how certain things work. Well, even like the water department, we don't know how they operate. People just haven't got a good idea of what's, you know, and I don't know. Some young lady from, 2 young ladies from the rescue came to visit me yesterday morning, said they were visiting all the homes in town. I didn't know that. Maybe it was because of my particular circumstance. And they brought me a present, which I accepted. It was a chocolate chip cookies package. And I looked at it, it was $6 from Hannaford, and I thought, oh my God, after going to every house in Buckfield with a package, a $6 package of chocolate chip cookies. Where's that coming from? And, okay, little things like that are, and they also brought me a very nice note that you could call the rescue directly. I don't know if people know that. It was a 336 number instead of calling 911. How do you get that information out to people? I mean, that's
Yes, Sandra.
I'm not sure if this answers your question right now, but I would say that any concerns, for instance, with the water, I know that you gave me a question and it is my responsibility to get that information for you. And if you have a concern about expenditures from rescue, by all means, ask any one of the select board members, and it is our responsibility to get that information for you. And then to be able to look at these things.
I definitely agree. I'm just saying that there are a lot of things that are already set in town and people just don't know about them, that it would be very helpful. You know, how do you, for instance, I know in Sumner they have everybody's email. Everyone with an email has it registered. And when Sumner has a problem or want to communicate with people, they send the emails and they know those people in town who don't perhaps use email or have it. And they have people who will call, things like that.
And I believe that in this budget, we've included, what's the name of the service?
Text.gov.
Text my go.
That's cost, what Judy's done for free.
Yeah,
but
She asked how to get information out. I think Sandra's just,
But whether the town, whether we use that system or a different system, we are discussing ways it is important that there is a chain of information that we have that can include all people. But any one of these pieces, any idea that you have, for instance, being able to call directly, how do we get that number out there? Thank you for that, and we will look into how to get that 336 number out and available to everybody, because that is important.
And I think it ties to the budget with an understanding of what. If you're a voter who walk in, you see the public safety line. Then you would say, oh, but we get this, and this, versus we get nothing. Except emergencies, I think it would help.
Okay. Any other questions? I think we're talking about Article 4, the public safety budget. No, all right. Article 5, the Parks and Rec. Online, nothing. Article 6. The community budget for $70,240. Okay. I'm sorry, did you?
what is, I forget what the community is. Oh, all these organizations, okay. Oh, and you've got Old Church in there.
Yeah.
Where? Okay, what is the
What is the what?
beautification committee?
Beautification committee.
So we have a beautification.
Yeah.
Conservation committee. Where is that?
Do you know that comes under?
never been any budgeted lines for those.
No,
They're just committees.
yeah. There's not a budget for it. Yeah.
I was, well, at another time I was gonna recommend that the Old Church be combined with that.
Old church and the community event or community beautification.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good notes. Thank you. All right, Article 7, debt service. Oh, yes, Sandra. Yeah.
So just for clarification, with the exception of the first item on this list for debt service, which is the fire rescue building, all the other items within 8 months of the beginning of this budget cycle should be done, correct? Am I reading this correctly?
No, they're annual payments.
Okay. So we have 2 items here that will be done this year.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions on 7? Article 8, Public Works.
I have the same concerns. And it's a technical question again, it goes back to what I already said, so I'm not gonna repeat that part. But again, for formality speaking. Winter Road is now in. Public Works. Winter Roads is legally. you're legally allowed to overdraft winter roads versus the other three. So minimally, shouldn't winter roads be its own warrant article? If we had a huge blizzard that lasted 4 weeks, I mean, I'm just saying. That we could, that you have as a board, you would have the authority to. Spend the emergency money, so on and so forth, blah, 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 but for winter roads specifically. How are you gonna separate that out of being legally able to overdraft? I don't even know if overdraft is the correct term, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's just another one of those legal questions.
Yes, Sandra?
Am I correct that the way this is set up allows us to legally do that?
You-
This is not an issue, correct?
Winter roads is still tracked in its own division, so you can see what's spent in winter roads, and if you go over it, you would still be able to overdraft it, or whatever the proper term is that Vivian's asking.
Thank you.
Any other questions on Article 8? Alright. Article 9, solid waste. Questions on that one? Okay. Article 10, the emergency contingency reserve.
Question.
Yes, Judy.
Okay, when we first, my husband first recommended that because we had a boiler break here and I had to call a special town meeting. For a $3,000 fix or something. We said, why can't we just, even though we have committed a certain amount of funds from the fund balance. We have a 60-day, and usually it's more than a 60-day remaining. Why don't we just say that we could take out at this time, we used to say 10,000, then we say 20, but 20 if needed. If it's not needed, it goes back in, we don't raise it.
Yes, Sandra.
I agree with you. The way that this is written is to establish a reserve. And that $20,000 would be designated for that reserve for emergencies. And if we don't spend it, it just stays there in that reserve. So if we ever have an emergency, we have money available to spend. And if we don't, so we're not looking to raise this through taxation. We're saying, please allow us to set aside $20,000 of our fund balance to make it available if there were to be an emergency.
I understand what the difference in this warrant is. We used to say raise and appropriate or appropriate from. And so we need to be clear about how we don't say raise anymore, so we're not sure exactly.
Well, I think this one's a little different. This one does not say raise.
So none of
Because
this-
You're appropriating it from fund balance.
See right here, Judy,
yes,
appropriate, right here it says, to see if the town will vote.
oh, we got to get rid. I know we're right. I'm sorry.
What they're saying is,
Just appropriate. Got it.
because it's coming from the undesignated fund.
Okay, just appropriate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you got it.
Okay. Okay.
the hope being that we won't have an emergency, it will all be there next year, and then we don't have to ask for.
Actually, so far, since we have been doing this, 15 years, I think we used like $2,000 a year. And that was all.
So fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real.
Okay.
I would like to go back to the last sentence in Article 9 and an explanation if that's allowed. If not, I can wait till Tuesday.
No, go ahead.
If solid waste operations exceeds the approved budget, the overage is covered by funds in the solid waste account. Is that like a blank check? I mean, they can go over by 100,000, they can go over by 50, they can go over by what? And why are we voting on a total if we're also at the same time saying you're giving the transfer station approval to take the overage is covered by funds in the solid waste without a voter approval for whatever that overage is.
Tell me without.
The transfer station is an agreement between Buckfield and Sumner. When we vote, we have to vote on the full budget. We deduct what Sumner pays. In the agreement, it allows any overages to be covered by the savings account. It's been that way for at least the last 10 years. And probably when it first started, I haven't read the previous agreements, but I don't think they've changed much. So could they go over 100,000 if there was $100,000 in that account? But I think I think what Vivian's doing is expecting the worst, and this is just there for information, and maybe it should be removed so it doesn't make people think that they're gonna have a blank check.
Well, that was a helpful explanation. It's never been explained that way. Number one, number two, again, I think because Buckfield owns 65% of it, there should be a limit to the overage. Even if it does say in the contract, but those are my comments.
So maybe we should work on that in the contract in the future.
Well, we just signed a new 10 year, so
Oh, it's written.
Because right now, the way it's read, anybody could read it the way I'm reading
Oh,
it,
sure.
and I think that's a blank check.
So when we discuss final changes to this draft,
We can.
we can get that. Thank you.
Yeah.
10. Article 11. Create a municipal center capital improvement reserve for $2,500. Okay,
that one isn't actually supposed to be in there.
no,
This is gonna be discussed at your meeting on Tuesday. That was one that should have came out. Wait, no, never mind. It's because it's the appropriation. I'm sorry. Disregard everything I just said.
Article 12, see, for local revenues. Any questions on 12? Um,
Does fire have any income?
It's included in public safety under contracts. Judy, if you flick to your revenue section of your budget, you'll see it.
Sorry, about it. My other cataract out of my, what page is it? Reading?
Page 25 of the revenue. $29,000 Hartford contract.
But they do bring in revenue. But they're not assigning any revenue this year to local revenues unless you ask the board to do that. And then that's, you know.
Yes, you are.
All right,
That's $29,000 good.
okay, so see where it says public safety revenues? Right there on the warrant, yeah, you'd have to go then to your specific budget and see.
I thought that was all tucking on rescue, my mistake.
The note under public safety was just for reference for people to see.
Oh, sorry about that. When I get my glasses.
There is no need to.
Careful after you eat this.
Good,
Good on Article 12? Yeah, Article 13. The state revenue. Any questions on that? Usually not, that's right. It's Article 14. Any questions on 14?
No, the only thing I will. I get that we're gonna appropriate the 300, but that's not the total amount that we're using from the undesignated fund balance, it's in other warrants. Yeah, I got it.
Okay. All right. Article 15.
There's,
For transparency, I don't even think this is gonna matter because I don't believe they're gonna exceed what they projected. So I'll just put that out there. It's there, but unless they raise the full 257, there's nothing's gonna be there to move.
so that,
Yes, good.
so then that's another. Um. Technical question, I guess, or formality question is, right now we have a set of reserves. Are you planning to change the reserves in any way, shape, or form before voters vote on this?
You'll have an agenda item on your Tuesday meeting. I think most of you have seen the reserve policy that was drafted for you.
Yes.
So the board will be discussing this, and I can only speak to my understanding is that the board will be discussing reserves, and I believe right now is there two for,
There's 2 for fire, 2 for rescue.
so right now that there are 2 reserves for fire and 2 reserves for rescue, and the discussion will be, could we combine the 2 for rescue into 1 reserve and the 2 for fire? There's also a draft policy that covers each and every reserve, how it is to be funded, what it is to be used for, how it is to be used. So there is clear direction and accountability for each and every reserve. The intent is not to remove any money from any reserve that the community has decided to put there, or to rearrange them. Will there be some changes to what they're called? And are we discussing creating 2 new reserves? Yes, but that would be up to the community to fund those or not.
Yeah, I was trying to just understand how. The timing of it all, because the wording of the warrant article that discusses, for example. The ambulance replacement reserve. And then. If the board meets and if the board discusses something and then changes the policy. Will there still be a public hearing on these warrant articles after those changes are made? Because if not, then. Might seem a little bit like trying to think of a non-flaring, non-agitating word, but
If for some reason it appears that anything we are doing is of to use your words, bait and switch, I would expect you, fully expect you to point that out to us at the meeting, and that we would rectify that situation. I do not anticipate this board in any way, shape, or form to misrepresent
Me either.
So,
I'll put that right out there. I'm not saying that at all.
let's not plan for a worst case scenario. Let's.
No, I'm planning for a complete understanding of what we, the voters, will be voting on. So if what you're saying is there is a plan to discuss the reserves and potentially make changes to those reserves, then
The changes would be minimal. There is
In your
a rescue, there's a reserve for ambulances to replace or fix. There is a reserve right now. I don't believe anybody is suggesting, and I can't speak for other board members, but I don't believe anybody is suggesting that we not have an ambulance reserve. The board may discuss changing the name of it but that there will still be an ambulance reserve for that money as there always has been.
there's always, yep.
Which is the authority of the board to open and close reserves. They asked for a reserve policy.
They-
The public at a recent meeting asked for a reserve policy.
Which was a good
We
idea.
worked on a draft. Vivian helped me. I submitted it to you. You will discuss it at your meeting on Tuesday. As for this article and the wording of the title of the reserve, if you approve that policy at your meeting, when you go to finalize this, you will reword that article, I think is what she's asking.
We will make sure that the wording is aligned.
Okay.
All right, any other questions on Article 15? All right. Great. Article 16. Just the usual due dates for taxes. Any questions on that? Yeah. Article 17. Okay. Article 18. You see anybody online? I thought.
No, Martha was, but she fell off. I've already talked to her. She'll be here Tuesday.
Okay.
Can I interrupt?
I'm sorry. Yes.
I just want to say that I had no further questions on any of these. Judy, do you have any more questions
Not for 20, if it's all for.
for any of the other ones? If that's helpful at all.
It could be. We got through the ones that are typically asked about. Is there any other questions
Do
on?
we know what the property tax levy limit is? That's our question. Yeah, Shannon.
If everything in this budget passes, we are $129,958 under the levy limit.
Can you say it again, Kim? I'll write it down.
And these are preliminary numbers
No,
too.
I know.
If everything in this budget passes, we will come in $129,958 under the levy limit.
Yes, I'm not gonna call him. Listen.
Yeah.
Are there questions on any of the other articles? To the warrant. No? Are there any other questions we can help with?
Any other questions, Judy?
that I can say.
Wow. There we go. Go ahead, yeah.
I think we should just put it out there for anybody who is watching a recording of this public hearing that any selectman is available to take questions, concerns, suggestions between now and Tuesday night's meeting. And the meeting Tuesday night begins at Cameron, please.
Posted it online.
Not meeting, public hearing.
Six.
Cameron's checking, but I believe it starts at 6. You'll be going over one of. There'll be a public hearing on an ordinance first.
That's what I was trying to tell somebody, right? I couldn't remember.
Shoreline zoning starts at 6.
Shoreline zoning starts at 6 and directly following that will be the second public hearing for. The budget. So we would encourage people to attend virtually, to submit questions, thoughts, concerns, suggestions. This is not our budget, this is the community's budget, and the more input we get as we put it together, the better it will be.
And then the board of selectmen meeting.
And Board of Selectmen directly following those 2 public hearings. Yeah.
Well, right there. No, I don't know. Okay.
Anything else? Any other business? No?
Did we forget anything, Cameron?
No?
So,
Oh, I don't know what you do. Oh, right, that's right.
All good. All right, so hearing no other questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn this public hearing at 1:38 p.m. All those in favor, Bob, aye. You're 1:28, sorry.
Thank you.
I could be on the 13th, yeah. Yeah. Not everybody uses that.